Good afternoon, Charter Nation. It is a hot and smoky afternoon here in California. Our hearts are with everyone who has been evacuated, who has lost homes, or whose property or health is in danger in this moment. And we just want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are, in fact, in a moment of great peril and strain for all Californians. And our hearts are with you, but we also know that the resiliency and strength that characterizes the charter movement and Californians as a whole continues in a spirit of strength, of unity, and moving forward in spite of the crises as we try to do our best for children all over our state. That is an odd way to say welcome to 2020, to the school year in 2020. But that is as it is, and it is the challenge of the moment, how we rise to the moment together, how we meet the moment together and learn from the mistakes that we undoubtedly will make and continue to make, even as we perfect our approach in this moment. So we wanted to really kick off the school year here at CCSA with an opportunity to hear from charter leaders, teachers, administrators, and we're going to kick off a number of these inspirational videos with this conversation with my longtime close friend, Ivette King-Berg, who's been an absolute warrior in the fight for educational equity. Ivette and I are going to have a short conversation today that will frame our approach to life, to motherhood in chartering. And we hope that you'll enjoy this. It gives me great pleasure to always find an excuse and a reason to connect with my dear friend Ivette. She's my hermana. We have great stories and experiences that we've shared, and I'm delighted to share her with you as well as we embark upon this very unusual 2020.
I'd have to agree, a very unusual 2020, but what's not unusual is our advocacy together for all kids. So I'm excited to do this, and I'm glad to help. And I have prepared a few questions. Let's just talk about the Charter Schools Association and your roles and priorities right now. I just recall working alongside you in the association, and you would often kind of describe your day as starting as a jet pilot, knowing where you're going, and then get sidetracked and would have to land somewhere else. So what are your priorities at this particular point in time, given where we are?
Well, one of the unique features of the last few months that we've been dealing with the pandemic in particular is that everything that we knew was normal, and you as a school leader know this, right, has been thrown out the window. For CCSA, as you know, one of our very core missions is to fight for charter schools in the capital. And the capital has been completely upended in terms of their schedule, their portfolio, the pace at which they take up business and how much business they take up on behalf of California's people. And that has had a series of implications for how we advocate for charter schools in this moment. In the beginning of the pandemic, as we were planning to shut down and how are we going to deal with distance learning, a number of the directives came out in the form of executive orders. A number of the directives came directly from the Department of Public Health, as opposed to the California Department of Education, which is typically the agency that we're working with. A lot of emergency regulation that was public health focused came into very clear relief, and the legislature literally stopped. So our focus really turned specifically to working with Governor Newsom's administration and ensuring that our interests were represented well in the executive orders, that we weren't omitted or forgotten, when decisions impact systems differently, for example. And then, of course, as the legislature began to come back, and the summer months settled for charter schools in particular, and district schools as well, the advocacy in the capital, in the federal government, really shifted for us as well, because that's also something that we typically don't do much of. Our partner, the National Alliance, focuses on federal issues, but the intersection of emergency funding with the state and the federal really brought us into the arena in a different and much more intense way than we probably ever have before. So that was a really long answer. That's the first priority.
Hey, I love that. I love your passion, because at the end of the day, it's about all kids. And so thank you for the fight.
And all means all.
All means all, not some, all. I want to pivot just a little bit. What made you want to work in education, and particularly for charter schools?
That's a really great question, Yvette, and it goes deep back in my to my personal story. And so I'll try to be brief and just hit you the highlights. But the reality of it is I come from a family of educators, and you know how often when we grow up, especially if you have a slightly rebellious streak, that you always say, "That's what I'm not gonna do." Right? I'm not gonna do what my parents did. And you know, my parents, in different ways, did have career steeped in education. My mother went through Escuela Normal in Saltillo. She was an elementary school teacher and ended up teaching in a teacher's college. And my father as well. He started in ministry and ended up in higher education administration. And so I wanted to do something different. I did a graduate degree in communications and music, vocal performance, not education. And then for graduate school, I worked on a PhD in cultural anthropology, not education. But you know, through a series of accidents of fate, I landed post-grad school, post-divorce, my starter marriage, in the border, you know, in El Paso, Texas. And I was supposed to be doing graduate research on women and the informal economy on the border. Halfway through that research, my research funding got cut. And because of budget changes at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And what ended up happening was, here I am stranded in El Paso, no family, no real career yet, no roots. And yet I had met this amazing principal, Dolores de Avila from El Paso, Texas, working at Isleta Elementary, who had given me an opportunity to interview some of her parents about why parents don't come more to school, why they don't engage more deeply. And we had developed a friendship. And she said, you know what? I'm going to give you a starting teacher salary if you become a parent educator and help me with this new organizing effort that I'm doing with the Industrial Areas Foundation. That was a great partnership. I spent 8 years in El Paso, Texas, and then I've never looked back. And that was way back in 1993. My age a little bit.
So I'm going to ask you another pointed question. What is the most rewarding part of what you do? I think you kind of answered it a little bit, but I'm going to ask you that specifically.
For me, it's about how we reinscribe with each other a sense of possibility, being part of that fight, being part of advocating for a different way of doing things, really causes ourselves to think differently about our own power.
Yes.
Right. And what is possible. And to me, that's the biggest the biggest contribution that we have internally, you know, to ourselves as a movement. And that is how, in the act of making schools better, we exercise the skills of public life and we become better citizens. We become better neighbors. We become better educators, better professionals, and just better human beings, in my opinion. When we live to project our goals and our success as measured by our impact to others, I mean, what could be a greater privilege?
Absolutely, I agree. So what advice would you have for parents that are considering a charter school for their child's education?
You know, honestly, like I want to hear what you answer, Yvette. What do you think is the best advice for parents in this moment? Because I know some of your struggles and challenges as EJ was growing up, and he's now what, a senior at Berkeley?
Yes, he is. And I would basically, if I had to respond to that in reverse, I would say each year we have to decide what's best for our kids. And
That's right.
What is happening today may not be what's going to happen tomorrow. So at the end of the day, I always made choices based on our values. EJ was raised in a bilingual home, and it was important for us, even though we had a 900 API school around the corner. But we wanted him to learn to read, write, and speak in Spanish before he learned to read, write, and speak in English.
That's
so
right.
The charter school movement gave us that opportunity. So just, I think probably what's most important is just having parents understand that there are choices for their kids and having the right to access those choices. And so for me, I think it's important to pay attention to your kid in every grade level, because every, high school, Kenji's a sophomore now in high school. And I'm thinking, wow, I remember he was in second grade. So high school, sophomore year versus second year in elementary school is a very different thing. And so I think our families just need to be more aware of what their child's changing needs are.
The Kenji and mommy team is, absolutely bonded, but we also know that we ebb and we flow and we change and we adapt when we make mistakes. And I promised him, baby, if this is not the right school for you, we will find the one that is. And he's always known that that's our commitment, that as his needs change, we're not described or conscribed by zip code, by modality. What works at one moment will not for another. And I got yet again reminded about this summer, because he's in love with his comprehensive high school, public school, traditional, because he's a marching band kid. He plays in 5 different ensembles, and there's 150 marching band member marching band at his high school that is his tribe.
I love it.
And yet for summer, guess what he did?
Mm-hmm.
He can't go anywhere. He can't go to camp. He was supposed to be a junior counselor this year. So he said, I'm going to catch up on my academics. And he enrolled in an online charter school and did 15 semester hours in 6 weeks.
I love it. I love it. That's what this movement is about, being able to flex, pivot, and be able to provide what our kids need whenever it's needed. So I just want to say, Myrna, this was fun. I'm thrilled to have had an opportunity to do this with you today. Wishing you great success. And I'm just going to leave on this note, and that is, I appreciate the fact that you have been out there advocating for kids, that you have been pushing the envelope, and that you have been out in front of parents, providing for us the shield and the advocacy levels that we have needed. And ultimately, I just know that we've always said that if it's not good enough for our own boys, then it's not good enough for anybody's kid. And that you've always advocated from that standpoint of our kids, every kid in the state deserves to have the level of advocacy that our boys have had. And I just really appreciate that about you in terms of what you do for us. So thank you.
Quite mutual, Ivette. I think that's the thing that you and I have consistently bonded over, that we believe in our children, we believe in our communities, we believe in our boys as boys navigating a very changing world, right? Both as young men and young men of color.
Yes.
It's been a privilege to walk this journey with you. We love each other because we are mama bears in the best definition. Your advocacy, your voice has just been absolutely incomparable, and I long for the day where we can together celebrate again. One of my favorite images of you, Ivette, was when we celebrated my 50th birthday in New Orleans. Remember?
Oh, yes.
And you and EJ just broke out in song, and you got everybody else singing When the Saints Come Marching In.
Yes.
I hold you in my heart, hermana. And best of luck. All the best to you and your students and your teachers. You are indefatigable, and I appreciate you doing this for us and doing this for the movement, and just being the Ivette King-Berg that we all love.
Have a great afternoon and get out of the heat.
I will try. It's kind of almost as hot inside, to be really honest. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.